Hey, I'm Kalen Pollock. I am the co-founder of AgroCrab, and I am the narrative director of Another Crab's Treasure.
Hi, I'm Nick Kamen. I'm the other co-founder of AgroCrab, and I'm the art director.
You guys talk about what you guys are showing Another Crab's Treasure. Talk about what this game's all about.
This game is an underwater Souls-like, so inspired by Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and the like, set in a crumbling underwater world that's in peril at the hands of pollution and trash. And you play as a little hermit crab who has had his shell taken away by a loan shark and is going on a large treasure hunt to buy back his shell, and has to wear trash as shells along the way to defend himself from enemies.
I'm already loving the humor aspect of this. Where did the concept for this idea come from?
Okay, so 7 years ago, before AgroCrab existed, before we had any of this, I had this dream of a game about a hermit crab where, right, like different shells give you different powers. You're switching shells constantly, kind of like Kirby, right?
Right.
And, you know, I was a pretty inexperienced dev at the time. This is before we met, or about when we met. And, you know, we really couldn't figure out an angle on how this game could come together. It was like a mobile game at one point, but just had to table it and do other stuff in the games industry. And eventually we started this studio and we had our first game, Going Under. And after that, we had to pitch a new game, come up with something to make. And then I was just like, hey, remember that old game idea I had, Another Crab's Treasure? Yeah, what if it was a Souls-like?
So what did your team learn from Going Under that you brought with you to Another Crab's Treasure? What was your big takeaway?
A whole lot, actually. I mean, a lot of things are very different gameplay-wise. That was closer to like a bird's eye view kind of perspective kind of game. It's a roguelike. But one thing that Going Under is all about is using random office supplies as weapons to fight your enemies, and those weapons break very quickly. That game was, at the time, very inspired by Breath of the Wild, and so you're constantly forced to adapt and use different things. And there's a very similar mechanic in this game where the different shells you wear, they all have different weights, different stats, and also different magical abilities. And they don't last forever. Like, you're meant to use that shell as a resource, and when it's used up and breaks, there's always another one nearby. So it's all about being adaptive and finding new stuff and switching up your style in combat constantly.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good answer. We also kind of just, like, that first game, Going Under, built our studio identity, right? Like, the color, the humor, the storytelling style of that game, that DNA is in this game. And as on top of that, all the kind of like combat mechanics and gameplay stuff, we've taken what we've learned from Going Under and evolved it for this game. Like, this is just on a whole nother level of production value, but we still have that same, like, you know, perspective and style in it. So you'll find that, like, that's kind of where this game diverts itself from Dark Souls in every kind of category of design, is where, like, our personal tastes and style comes into play.
So what's the biggest challenge in making an indie game in 2023?
There's a lot of different challenges. I mean, remote work is one of them. I mean, so most of our team is based in Seattle. We have some people who are fully remote, and in general, like, it's not, you know, ethical or even what we want to, like, force people back to the office 100% of the time. And so, like, but at the same time, like, a lot of really good creative work happens while people are in person collaborating together. So finding that sort of balance and, like, managing solutions for that has been one of the biggest, like, changes our studio has had to go through, because we were working on Going Under just all in person basically, and we released that game in September of 2020, so it was just like a shit show. And now we've been, like, you know, working towards more permanent solutions where people don't feel that, you know, the physical office can be like a resource, not like an obligation.
Yeah, I will add it was harder at the start of the project than it is now. It's a lot easier to work in person now. What's hard about making a game in 2023? The fact that, you know, however many people end up watching this interview, you're not going to wishlist this on Steam. You're not going to play it. You're not going to buy it. Maybe 0.1% of you will. And, you know, that's just the environment these days. There's so many good games out there. There's so many things competing for our attention. How do we rise to the top? Especially when there's just like opportunities like this don't come that often. And when they do, who knows if they even get you anywhere, right? It's just really hard to know whether your game is going to actually get any eyeballs on it and reach its audience. So we at AgroCrab try really hard to, like, make that part of our process to like really work our socials and have our audience like care about the game and invested from day one, right? So that goes from like our strategy with like our socials and just posting all the time on Twitter and TikTok, making a game that's interesting to post on socials, and collaborating with our community manager to like make her life easier, and just think, you know, while we make the game, would this make good content? Would this be fun to show off? That sort of thing. Because I don't know, it just feels like otherwise it's hard. Yeah.
So when does your game come out and what platforms will it be on?
We're coming out in early 2024. All right, we're coming out on PC, Xbox, and Switch.
Woo!